Hi beautiful people! So the other day I was surfing through the YouTube and I stumbled upon an amazing video by a guy named Tim Keller. It was like a tidbit of one of his sermons that he did and it was amazing. So of course it's going to be linked for you in the description because number one, I want you to watch it, but number two, some of the things that I say are like I took from that video, so I want to give him like all the credits for that. So definitely go watch it, but number two, just know that a couple of the things that I say are like things that he said in that video, so I want to give him the full creds. Okay, so let's bring it in because we're getting to the serious stuff now. So the thing about love from other people, from other human beings, is that it's not always what we want it to be. A lot of times people are very selfish and that comes from our sinful nature, and so we hurt other people in the process and we leave other people feeling very broken and hurt. I've seen so many people be left broken because people have just walked out of their lives when things got hard. I've seen parents just choose to walk out of their children's lives and forget about their kids, or seemingly forget about them just because they don't want to deal with them anymore. I've seen people say that they love other people, like friends of mine, but they've never put that love into action. And I've seen people use my friends or use people in my life and just walk away after they got what they wanted from them. Those things that I just mentioned happen to real people in my life, and it sucks because often our sinful, selfish nature takes precedence over other people's feelings and needs, and we just end up leaving people broken as a result of all of those things I just mentioned. Now, I can't tell you why all of those things happen, why people hurt each other in that way, and why that all can happen to us, even if we never did anything wrong to them. But I can tell you that, and this does not justify what happened to those people, but I can tell you that God's love is not like that at all, and that's the beauty of His love. There are 4 points that I just mentioned, and I don't think I said them in this exact order, but I'm going to name them for you, okay? Number 1 is that God will never run when things get hard. The Bible actually says that when we are the most broken, when we're the most lost and astray, that's when God runs to us instead of running away like a lot of people do in this world. God will never use you or use us because He does not need anything from us. In fact, we're the ones who need Him. He has nothing to gain from being in a relationship with us, yet for some reason He still wants a relationship with us anyway. Number 3 is that God will never be all talk. Like, He will never say that He loves you, but then never put it into action. I'm going to talk about this one more, like how God's put His love into action for you in a second, so just hold on for a second. Number 4 is that He will never walk out of His children's lives, and He will never forget about His children. When you become a Christian, you are adopted into God's family, and this is a permanent place. You can never be taken out of it, and God will never ever forget about His children. The Bible is extremely clear about that. All the things that I shared are directly from the Bible. I did not make it up myself, and they're going to be linked, like the verses and the passages that I described will be linked for you in the description, because I'm going to talk about a couple of them, but not all, so I want you to know where I got it all. So look in the description for that. From all the ones that I just talked about, the ones that I will share for this video and read from scripture are about how God will never forget about you, how His love for you is permanent, and how He always shows His love for you in action. So going to scripture, in Isaiah chapter 49, the Israelites, or God's people, really felt in their heart that God had forgotten about them. Now this isn't possible, but it was just how they felt. And this is what God said in response to that. Chapter 49, verse 15, it says this: "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Though she may forget, I will not forget you. See, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Now, this time in history, masters would sometimes put their name on their slave's hand, engrave it, which basically is like a tattoo in a way. So they would put their name on their slave's hand so that the slave would not forget their master's name. And also, sometimes people would put the name of their God, engrave the name of their God on their hand so they wouldn't forget, like the same reason. And like I said, it's kind of like a tattoo, but in a different way, like they didn't have the same tools that we have now, but you can kind of think of it that way. But regardless, the master would never put the slave's name on their hand. It was never like that, because that would mean that the master was devoted to the slave and loved the slave, but it was never that way. It didn't work like that. But that is literally what God is saying here in scripture. He said, "I have engraved you on the palms of my hands." Even though we are God's servants and He is our master, He put our names on His hand permanently, just like a tattoo. That shows His love to us and His devotion to us, though we are His servants and He can gain nothing from being in a relationship with us. He engraved our names onto His hand. That permanently shows how much He loves us, that He would be willing to put our names on His hand so that He could never forget about us. Now jump ahead hundreds of years to when Jesus was being crucified on the cross. And you probably know this, but when you're crucified, your wrist gets hammered in with a nail right here and right here so that you stay up on that wood. Now what is so incredible about this was, after Jesus had resurrected from the dead and came to visit His disciples, He had been given a totally new body, totally new life and everything. But the one thing that had not changed is that he still had those holes in his wrists to show the scars of where the nail had been hammered into his wrist. One of his disciples named Thomas was having trouble believing that God could resurrect from the dead like that. And he said this in scripture. In John chapter 20, verse 25, it says that Thomas said this, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, I will not believe it." And when Jesus came to visit his disciples, including Thomas, this is the first thing that he says to Thomas. He says this, "Put your finger here, see my hands. Stop doubting and believe." He said to Thomas, "Look at my hands. This is me showing my love for you through these scars in my wrists. I was willing to let men put those nails into my wrists and nail me to the cross because of my love for you." That was him putting his love for Thomas, for all the disciples, for all of us into action. I find it so incredible and beautiful that that is the one thing that didn't change after Jesus resurrected, was those scars were still there, because it shows his love for you will be permanently there on his body so that he could never ever forget about us. If you have ever felt like God doesn't love you or that God has forgotten about you, then you're wrong, because if you are a child of God, then you are a permanent member in his family and you will have that place forever. He put his love into action for you when he allowed those nails to be hammered into his wrists and when he engraved your name on the palm of his hand. Your name is forever engraved on his hand, and those nail marks will be there for all eternity to show that God could never forget about you. God's love is not like human love. It is always patient and kind and selfless, and it is permanent. His love has been here for you since before you were born, and it will always be here for all of eternity. Have a great day and know that you are so loved and so beautiful.